Oh, twój proces. Okay. So welcome back to the third panel. Do we have the speakers on Zoom? We have three panelists on Zoom that will be visible in a moment. There we go. I'm sorry, I will just get up for a moment. Thank you so much for being with us. We have Professor von Loon. Yes, I look in the camera. Hello. We have Professor von Loon. Luke, welcome. And we have Dr. Dina Radenkovic. Thank you for being here with us. Can you hear us? Dina? Luke? Can you hear us?
Okay, we can hear you now. We cannot see you, but we can hear you.
All right. Okay, sorry for that. I'm going to go back to the stage in a moment. I would love to have you introduce yourself, just very briefly, just say your name and where you are from, so that our audience can also get to know you. Dina, would you like to go first?
Sure, my name is Dina. I'm a medical doctor by background. I was the co-founder and chief science officer of Hook, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Agamita, a company working in female reproductive health. And I'm calling in from New York, and I'm really sorry I cannot be there, but I know everybody is there and you're having a wonderful discussion.
Yeah, we miss you a lot. Next year, hopefully, for the 10th ARDD. Luke?
I'm Luc Verloon. I'm a professor in physiology of exercise and nutrition at Maastricht University, calling in from the Netherlands. Also would love to be there, but I can't make it between two meetings. And I'm very impressed that you guys are still so active after a full day, and it's 7:15, so I'm impressed.
Thank you so much. And we have two other speakers that were also not giving a lecture in the first panel. That's why I would love you to also introduce yourself. Maybe we'll start with Joanna.
Joanna Bensz. I'm the CEO of Longevity Center. We are the investor and also creator of longevity clinics focusing on implementing some of the existing biomarkers, but also interventions that are already available under medical, let's say, supervision.
Thank you so much. And Professor Strauss.
Hi, so I'm a neonatologist, head of a neonatal department, and just the last year or two changed, and hopefully opening soon longevity center in our hospital.
Thank you so much. So this panel is hopefully also Christine Huang, Dr. Christine Huang from Hong Kong will join us. This panel is very much focused on really how to create a longevity center, how to run it, and also how to implement novel interventions and innovations from the physiology, right, engineering type of interventions, and also from the reproductive medicine. So it's a very interdisciplinary panel, and at the end also we'll be very happy to hear from Professor Strauss what is planned, and really it's one more highlight, one more revolution to have a longevity medicine department being built in an academic hospital in one of the top 10 hospitals in the world, Sheba Medical Center. So just to add that to the humble, sentence of Professor Strauss. So maybe we should open just with the general question, and would love to first give the floor to Dina and Luke, who are with us virtually, so it's always a bit more difficult. Maybe to give, your perspective coming from, and let's start maybe with the reproductive fertility field, Dina. Where do you see the translation of neurosciences into medicine, specifically in the field that you are working on? And then I would address the same question to you, Luke.
Yeah, absolutely. I think longevity medicine is probably the most the only and certainly the most exciting field clinically. Because there are already quite a lot of well-known, primarily lifestyle interventions that Luke will talk about around exercise and metabolic health that we know now that we can help people live longer and healthier lives. And I think reproductive health is second to that, in a sense that obviously being metabolically healthy should slow down systemic organ aging and therefore reproductive organ aging. And we've had several things from creation of assisted reproduction and IVF to interventions like egg freezing to combat For example, age-related ovarian decline. We know that ovaries are a faster aging organ, and therefore, for example, female fertility decline occurs even earlier than male fertility decline. So I would say that I'm incredibly optimistic, enthusiastic by seeing the creation of longevity clinics, which are essentially, whether we call it medicine 3.0 or sophisticated preventative medicine or longevity medicine, which are bringing people together and trying to help people live healthier lives and not only treat disease, but try to improve health. And seeing major universities coming in and this becoming mainstream and something that everybody has access to, not just selected patient groups in kind of our small ecosystem, is incredibly exciting. And I think reproductive health has done very well in it, but these clinics have so far been in silos. For example, everybody is really focused on IVF, and IVF clinics work in separation, but traditional IVF clinics do not look at women throughout her trajectory of ovarian aging. So I think what we could see in reproductive health, particularly for women, which is the field that I work in, is that we could start quite young in terms of thinking about egg freezing, then considering around assisted reproduction, and then looking at perimenopause and menopause as seminal aging events and what can be done in there to prevent some of the diseases associated with aging that occur during menopause and afterwards, and prevent frailty. So I think longevity medicine becoming more mainstream and being accepted by general medicine is excellent. And I think this integration of reproductive and assisted reproduction techniques together with more internal medicine, following the trajectory of ovarian aging and preventing the phenotypes of that decline would be quite interesting.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dina. Look, how does it look like from the perspective of physiology, especially your work, muscle?
I think that demographics and epidemiology is giving us a wrong view on aging, at least from a muscle health perspective, because everybody says that we lose muscle as we age. Now, that is indeed the truth if we look at demographics, but in fact, the muscle is constantly being synthesized and broken down. And whether you're 16 or 102, as long as you're still alive, you still are producing muscle and breaking down muscle at a rate of 1 to 2% per day. So really, at any age, you're still building muscle. And so you just have to find a way to optimize the balance between synthesis and breakdown. But age so far is not an issue. And so I think we need to find the most efficient ways to maximize gains in muscle mass that also translate to improved physical function, of course. And that's what every government now is also looking for, of course, with the increasing retirement age.
Exactly. Thank you so much. This is very, very important. Now, talking about all those interventions and translations, right? We have to have places where to do that. And Joanna is leading the Longevity Center, and we are talking also about how different it is in different geospatial areas. We've heard the example of a longevity center in America, in Asia, right, in China, in Eastern Europe.
Well, not in Eastern Europe, but in Central Europe. This is where we started, in Warsaw. Well, we started in Warsaw because our focus is actually to make it actionable, but also to democratize the solution. And I mean, there's quite a lot happening around the world, but as it was already said, it is a quite expensive solution in some of the clinics. So for us and for our investors, it was very important that we will create clinics that could be actually more cost effective as well with time. Of course, not immediately, because some of the solutions are just very rare and very unique. So it's still quite costly in comparison to typical preventive clinics. But definitely there is a lot of lessons learned, because we are looking at quite a number of clinics in different countries. The next one we have opened in Germany, which was quite a different experience to our first one in Poland. But I have to say this is something that definitely is growing. The field is very much attracting a lot of talent. Yes, and maybe I will come back also later on to some of the pitfalls at the moment, but I'm happy to share some of our experiences.
Let's jump to the pitfalls, but before I ask you about the pitfalls, I would like to ask Dina. You've also had the experience, right? Being a part, you're an MD, a colleague, and you've been a part of a longevity center. Where do you see, maybe not the pitfall, but where are the barriers? What can we improve? What are the to-dos and how to do them to attract more physicians, to build credible longevity centers, and how was your experience in that field?
Sure, and actually one of my colleagues and co-founders of Hook London, Dr. Eric Verdin, is there at the conference, so he may also want to comment. But the experience that we've had when we were creating the program of Hook was that, similarly to what Joanna mentioned, it is a set of quite a lot of expensive interventions. So initially it is restricted to a small pool of patients who can afford it. So that was the first one. The second one was a little bit around a recruitment of physicians. I'm so hopeful to hear that Joanna has said that more talent is coming in, and I think our field is really evolving. Like, you can see that this conference is growing. This is becoming a more mainstream accepted area. But traditionally, there is something in medicine, I'm sure, Eva, you've seen this, right? The smartest doctors, they want to go for the disease that is the hardest, the most complicated, the most severe. There is something that's still around, perhaps even like slightly judgmental view of like, why would you focus on prevention? This is easy. And I think we need to kind of attract more people to say like, no, it's actually thinking about nutrition, learning about muscle physiology. This is where you may have even a much bigger impact on patients. So attracting more talents and saying that it's okay to read about functional medicine or meditation or breath work. And I think we also had an issue. How do we combine top physicians, from top academic institutions, and tell them that there is a science of aging and that fasting may work better than this end-stage new monoclonal antibody that you could give when a patient is very sick. So that was the second one, like, how do you get traditionally trained physicians from top institutions to go back and forget some of the things that they've learned or haven't learned and start thinking outside of the box and look at patient from like a 360 angle, taking into account different areas, not just kind of this physical health. And then the third one, which I thought was very difficult, that we tried to solve, and to a certain extent, is the lack of clinical follow-up. So if you think about it right now, we have had in the past few years like a massive increase in assessment centers. So a lot of people have invested, and there are even startups backed by top like venture companies here in the US, into like new full body MRIs and genetic sequencing and this and that and expensive blood work. So there are a lot of great assessment centers. But what that happens after that massive assessment is that we generate a huge number of data points. But then maybe there's like one telemedicine consult telling the patients what to do. And then patients are just like, oh my God, like, okay, everything can kill me. And I think creating like very patient-friendly, actionable points so that that make sense, that are easy to be implemented, are really important, because in order for patients to stay integrated with any longevity program or with any healthcare interventions, they need to be bought in, it needs to make sense, it needs to be easy to follow, it needs to be able to see an impact. So those are, I'd say, the three things that we found. How can we increase access? How can we recruit more top physicians working in this space? And how can we really provide tangible outputs for patients they can integrate into their everyday lives, even if they're like a normal person and don't have 30 people working in their healthcare team?
Right, thank you so much. Before I ask Tzipi and Joanna to comment on that, I would like to ask Luke, you are, coming from the side that is so crucial for all the physicians. How is your experience in working with physicians, if at all? Are they seeking your advice? Are they asking you? Are they going after your research and trying to translate? How is your, experience in that?
So what we did over the last few years is basically doing a lot of work in the operating room, and basically showing the dynamics of muscle, but also connective tissue, bone, ligaments up to the heart, that all these living tissues are in a constant state of turnover. And at least here they start now to understand that that turnover is basically what life is. and that life is conditioning. And you can condition all these tissues. And so now it seems to be much more a dynamic process than simply operating on a stable or a non-living tissue, if you may. And that is something that is happening now. And from a lifestyle perspective, our hospital is now active in trying to get people the right nutrition and also sufficient physical activity, because before this, it was only surgery and then sending people away. And that was all. Now we're starting to actually just give a more holistic approach to the surgery itself, prehabilitation, so lifestyle prior to surgery to optimize the outcome of surgery, but also a more intense rehabilitation. But it's still, I mean, everybody has not enough money, there's not enough time. Nursing, physical therapy, you know, everything costs money. But to be honest, most of these things are very simple. If people get out of bed 5 times a day instead of once, you already have a huge benefit. And these things are now becoming clearer. But I mean, everywhere I go in the world, I mean, I always ask, where's the TV in the hospital room? And it's always above the bed. Now let's start by taking these things down.
Right, I couldn't agree more, and thank you for phrasing this, because when it's coming from the physicians, it's usually being stamped as a blunt phrase. Oh, we need to take from bench to bed. But when it's coming from the scientists, that actually yes, we do collaborate, we do translate, we try our best. We know that there is this amazing research going on. This is very important. Thank you so much. So, how about the pitfalls?
I would like to call it maybe lessons learned in this case. Is this working?
You can take mine.
Sorry for that. I would say for the first thing we needed to set up is, because we were going to all the longevity conferences, we were listening to very intelligent people in the field, but what we were really missing is the implementation aspect. So this is why we started with the longevity programs. But the first thing we needed to do is to find a way how to evaluate results, and also how to make all the biomarkers that we implement actionable. That's why we have included some of the biological age biomarkers, but not all of them that are existing, because some of them were very difficult for us to use and very difficult to really recommend anything and also see the progress. As Dina was saying, it's very important also for us. We do the 360-degree assessment, including biomarkers of aging and also the hallmarks of aging. We are looking at microbiome, mitochondrial health, but also we look at something that was called maybe placebo, which is the psychological factor. For us, it's one of the very important parts of client engagement. How is he actually evaluating his own health? How is he ready for any change? This is one thing. Another thing that was also mentioned: when do we start? With longevity interventions? And I think this was also mentioned here. We are not really focusing on all the population. Most of our clients are between 30 and 60 years of age, because this is where you want to actually see the change. You want to start working with longevity medicine or longevity interventions. And you are reading all sorts of different books on longevity. You might heard a different podcast. And this is also one of the problems, that clients are coming to us using metformin, rapamycin, and many different other drugs because they have seen a podcast. And we have to actually ask them why. And we have to do a proper evaluation of their genetic, epigenetic, of their normal blood markers and the current state of health to actually see what is good for them short and long term. And this is where we start. Okay,
Thank you for, no, it's very good. And I wish we had more time. But this is bringing us exactly to the point that I would like to bring up, and would like to give the time for Professor Strauss to show something, because the question, where do we start longevity medicine? And maybe this is a nice also pre-concluding thought. should be starting at some point of time very, very early. And Professor Strauss is a quite, maybe you can start to also your presentation in the meantime, is a quite a unique person because she's coming from the neonatology field. So not even pediatrics, even before. And as a physician in internal medicine, almost like, you know, rather at the end of life, being also in oncology and palliative care, I think this is exactly what is bringing the field even more forward. And another amazing thing is that we are seeing the development of building longevity departments, I would say, in academic hospitals, in university hospitals. One example that I might bring, and just to mention, is that is happening right now in China, in Shanghai. There is a longevity department being opened in one of the top 3A clinics, so one of the top leading university hospital. And that's quite revolutionary. And another one is happening in Israel. So Tzipi, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So I stay with this. Do you see that? Okay. So thank you for the opportunity. As I mentioned, I'm a neonatologist, and this is my daily life for the last 25 years. I see the beginning of life. And you may ask yourself what a pediatrician is doing in a longevity conference. So everything starts with a personal story. A few years ago, I started to feel subtle changes in my body. There were sleep disturbances and some fatigue, and my old friends told me to check my hormones. So I took their advice. I checked my hormones, and my gynecologist surprisingly calling me and telling me, "Welcome to menopause." And that was a shock for me, and I'm sure many of you here have this feeling or got to the point that you feel young and vital, however, your body feels something else. And I felt that it cannot be done. I don't want to feel that, and I decided that I want to study that. And I'm an optimistic person, and I think in my field most of us are optimistic because we give life from here to 100 years, so we have to be optimistic. So being also a physician and scientist and with innate curiosity, I started to study longevity. And I got hooked by the longevity virus. So I influenced also my family and my kids, and we are all starting to practice longevity, as you know, cold bath and intermittent fasting and supplements, some. And my enthusiasm also caught my CEO. So I had a meeting with Professor Kreis, who is the CEO of Sheba Medical Hospital, and I told him about a new topic that I was not aware of longevity at all before, and I think that this is really booming, and actually he didn't know what longevity is. And I explained to him that I think that we should not only in a hospital treat disease or extend life, but we should also consider the quality of life that we are giving. And quality of life is a philosophical question. Especially as a neonatology, I deal with that quite often. But I'm not talking about quality of life only in a philosophical way, but I'm sure that all of us here do not want to find ourselves in a position that we are feeling dementic, frail, or be dependent on caregiver. So luckily, my CEO has an entrepreneurial spirit, and he gave me a green light to study the topic. So I started to look and research the area, and many of you, of course, know there is plenty of research and amazing, promising, exciting research, basic research in longevity. And of course, in this research, I met amazing physicians that were helping me putting me into this area with a lot of support. Some of you are here, Andrea Meyer and Professor Nir Barzilai and Mahmoud Khan, and they were all really generous in trying to really help to develop the field. And another person that did a change for me was Professor Evelyn Bishop, which I met, and her support and enthusiasm, and I really learned a lot from her. We actually had a virtual meeting once a week for the last year, and this was the first time we met in person, but this was a great opportunity for me to study the longevity. I also did the course, which was an amazing course, the Introduction to Longevity by Alex and Eva, and I have to say this is the only course for physician that I could study. I was walking around asking, where can I read, study? Okay, there are podcasts and different things, but not real curriculum that I can say I study and this, and I have this degree in longevity. Doesn't exist. So that was really wonderful, and Eva was also a partner and an advisor for our longevity center in Sheba. So after all this research, I couldn't find, as Eva mentioned before, aging department or longevity department in a hospital. I'm a physician in a hospital, so I was looking for something more academic. And this brought to my attention the fact that we really need as a hospital to do that. So I went back to my CEO and I told him, this is an opportunity. We are Sheba Medical Center, top 10 best hospital ranked in Newsweek. We have the laboratory, the physician, the manpower, the facility to develop academic longevity center with clinical application. And he gave me a green light. So, okay, a green light. What do you do now? How do you create a new department? So for me, I summarize it in what I call the 3 T's. So I had to start with the team. Okay, I had to find physician for that. What kind of physician do you take for a longevity? So I went to Professor Grossman, who is the Dean of Medical Faculty in Tel Aviv University. He's also the internal division. He's the head of internal division. And I told him about the idea of opening a longevity center in Sheba, and surprisingly, he knew about this subject and got aboard. And then I was talking to many different disciplines in gynecology, endocrinology, psychiatry, neurology, and I have to say, 80%, first of all, did not know what longevity is all about. And I had to explain. And then it was, okay, you are saying that, 2 minutes. Okay, I will try to summarize it. To summarize, to have a team, a physician, very conservative, and to explain to them what longevity is was a real challenge. And at the end, they were reluctant. They thought it's a privilege, only high-end diagnostic. They cannot really say anything to the patient, and they don't want to promise something they cannot deliver. And there is no credibility, there is no evidence base. Very, very difficult. But at the end, they understood that this is our mission to do. So I had an amazing team together with neuroscience and gynecology and reproductive medicine and data analysis and epidemiology. And then the second one is testing, was also a challenge. To decide what kind of biomarkers and what kind of testing and what kind of imaging, and there is no guidelines nowhere, so we had to decide by ourselves what is our guidelines, and everybody wants to have like thousands of tests in their own area, so my main thing was you have to test the minimum to get the maximum, and after deciding the testing, we went to technology. And this is all a huge area of trying to understand what kind of wearables, what kind of monitoring we want to do to the patient or clients, and how we follow them up, and what are our measurable outcomes. And this was also a challenge, because you cannot manage what you cannot measure. And luckily I had ARC, which is an innovation center in Sheba, to help me try to understand what are the companies and their platform, and what are valid and what is not. And hopefully, and I want to say, this is the end, we are, luckily I got 500 square meter to build a longevity center. And just for you to know, in Sheba, in my hospital, when you get a piece of land, a real estate, it means that they are talking business. Somebody is thinking that probably you have a good opportunity there. So we are just renovating now. A few months from now, we are hopefully going to open first clinical academic longevity center, which will be credible and validate, and we will hopefully will have measurable outcomes that we can publish, and so the medical community, together with general population, will understand that it is valid and can be done. So, last sentence, hopefully in a few years, in near future, I will be able to say to every baby that is born in my department that he will not only live up to 100 or 120, but he will be fit and vital as in his 50s. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very fast.
Thank you so much. I will just get up to say thank you and bow down to all our panelists today, to everybody in the audience who joined us today, who stayed until the very last moment, to Morten for, again, giving us the floor, to Sebastian, my co-pilot, and I will, of course, give you the floor now to say goodbye. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Tzipi. Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Luke, so much for joining. And thank you to all of the speakers today, all of the panelists, once again, of all of the panels, and really each of one of you. I'm sorry that it's, it's always a race against time, just like with the longevity field and aging. Really, it was my great honor and pleasure, and thank you so much.
I'll just say thank you, everyone, and let's go to eat and the bar after for more discussions.
Great, yeah.
Thank you.
I apologize for cutting everything short. It was a fantastic day and amazing, and I think we should give Evelyn a round of applause because she's been amazing.
Thank you so much. Applause to you. Thank you so much.
And the reason I'm rushing everybody is because there's actually food now and it's getting cold, so let's eat.
Thank you, Luke. You can see Maya. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Keep in touch.
Bye-bye.